Hey, friends and family, parent care. Wow. What is that? Where do we find time for that? Parent care is so critical, especially when we have families with neurodivergent children. Come on back to Pam and the Purple Couch podcast, and we're going to talk about how do you instill parent care? How do you make time and why it's so important? Today on the Purple Couch podcast.
Welcome to Pam and the Purple Couch podcast, hosted by Pamela Furr, with our co-hosts, Dr. Manny Rodriguez, Missy Owen, and Loki DiPristo. Together, we're going to dive deep into topics such as education, neurodiversity, autism, and applied behavioral analysis. Remember to click subscribe today so you don't miss out on any future episodes.
Hi, friends and family, and welcome back to Pam and the Purple Couch podcast. Today, we're going to talk about something that's really easy to talk about, but it's a lot harder to put into place. Self-care, parent care for this episode. Why is it so important, and how do we make time for it? And what does it look like for you? What does it look like for your kid when he gets to see you going through it? And guys, make time for you. And when I say make time for you, that could be for you and your significant other. That could be you and your kid. That could be you taking a moment to breathe. In our company, we really have taken the last 2 years to take this up another notch. Was it Emerald Lagasse? Bam! Let's take it up a notch. That's what we've done between Puzzle Box, Kaleidoscope, our foundation, because we want it to get back to, if we have taken care of ourselves, then we can take care of our kids, we can take care of our other staff, we can take care of our families. But it is so hard when you're in the 9 to 5, when you have your kids, you get home, it's time to make dinner, it's time to deal with whatever drama may, be at play in the house. It could be your kids' daily activities, it could be your spouses, it could be your caregivers, and how about that? It could be your grandma, your grandmother, grandfather, aunts, uncle, cousins, nieces, nephews, or maybe you got a crazy neighbor that all of a sudden's got the dogs all over your property. You never know what it could be when you get home. And so sometimes self-care, what is that?
Right.
Where do we find it? When does it begin? We can preach it, but putting it into place is a completely different story.
Yeah.
What I can say is that in 11 years now of having the school open, it is also, and I don't want to get emotional here, it is a complete pattern of behavior when I have to sit down and do parent training. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of times, how we do it, if we get to a point that a child is going to be withdrawn from any of our programs, we have a sit-down powwow with the parents, and we talk about it before it happens, because we get to that situation, and then we normally do, just like a performance, improvement plan, a PIP. That's what we do for the child. And a lot of times, it's not the child that's in the crisis. I can tell you that when I sit down with moms and dads, I have broken my heart several times. You know that. We've seen it.
Yep.
You and I have dealt specifically recently in the last couple months with a family in crisis themselves, going through divorce. Let's talk about some numbers here on the couch. Currently in the United States, the separation divorce rate of married couples is between 40 and 50%. Okay? We just looked this up today. Now, the percentage for neurodivergent families, meaning families that actually have a child or a loved one with some form of neurotypical divergence. You get what I'm saying by that? So that could be ADD, ADHD, anything that, bam, knocks it up another level on that neurotypical scale. You take a neurotypical child, bam, let's add a little spice to them. Now we're at 87%.
It's outrageous.
87%.
Kind of crazy.
If we think about that. And what is it that child needs the most? Structure and stability. And it's the core value that's being lost at home. I can tell you, looking at the mirror on this one, this is a tough one for me because I epically failed at this until the last, 3 years, 4 years?
I'd say 5 years.
Last 5. Oh, I get a kudos on that one.
Yeah, well,
But no, you're right. The last 5 years, everyone else, including Loki, always came first. Everyone, whether it was my partner, whether it was my son, whether it was my job, whether it was my employees, whether it was my family.
You were taking care of other people's responsibilities other than your own.
Yes. Yep. And what did that cause? Burnout. You know, how do we keep it together when we don't have time to keep ourselves together? And that's why this is so important. We come to the table a lot with parents and we find out that mom and dad haven't been on a date in 5-6 years.
Not sleeping in the same room, barely talk.
Yep. Got the baby in the bed.
Yeah.
Arguing about the most minuscule things.
Yep. Survival mode for 3 years straight. Just stuck.
Crisis.
Yep.
That's all I hear. I hear all of our families in crisis. So how do we take that moment to breathe and pause as a parent to say, okay, I need time for me so that I can be the best version of myself for you?
Yeah, and I'm not the best to preach this because I epically fail about every week of trying to do some self-care. But you made but I can change that.
There you go.
Yeah, I can change
He's
that.
already got it. I was calling you on change. So
you said
instead of you epically failing, let's show our parents because this is a great one to do this on.
So in the past, I could say I was like not doing it right, but one of the words that you said is the word that always comes to my mind, which is just take a moment. It doesn't have to be to start off, right? To get started in like good self-care as a parent, I find that sometimes it's just mini moments. It doesn't have to be hours or a day or a week or something like that. It's just moments.
Just a few moments to like reflect on things.
It could be,
so
it could be to reflect, or it could just be to take a couple of moments just to yourself. It could be to lie down on the bed, close the door, put on some music, and just take one song, which is 3 to 5 minutes.
You
right?
dancing. You doing your jam. That's kind of the same thing that you're taking a moment.
My moments are in the garage. So I go into the garage, I close my double doors, and I said, I just want a few moments. And the moments could literally be a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. When it comes to the babies and the twins and the kids and all that, we have like this weird moment happens at 7:30 at night. So at 7 o'clock at night, that's when the twins go to bed. 7 to 7:30, we're done cooking dinner for the older ones. And then at 7:30, there's like this quiet lull. Like it's just quiet in the house.
Yes.
And so that, whatever long that takes, it may not last very long, but let's say it takes 5 minutes. That 5 minutes is so blissful. It's so nice.
I do want to say, I really also think mom also implies that same strategy, because whenever I'm upstairs and then I just hear like ancient hums like downstairs, which I could hear at the top of my game room, like, oh yeah, she's cleaning. I could hear.
Nice.
Yes.
So cleaning for me is therapeutic. So what he's talking about is I will put chanting on, mantras on.
Yeah.
And it's Sanskrit. And so I know, but each of us to our own, right? And thank you, because I never even realized that you heard my chant. But I am. That's what I do. That's my decompression.
Yeah.
And you are so right. It doesn't mean, I need to go and sit down for 30 minutes and I need to get into yoga mantra and be like in my own blissful state.
No, we could just be in our own.
Yeah.
We could just be in our own like zone, do what makes us comfortable. Like I think you said that, I said this, I think I specifically said this during the meditation episode, but meditation isn't always just like the whole cross arms, put hands on knees and just try to think to yourself for 26 minutes straight without any sympathetic things whatsoever. Sometimes meditation is just what makes us happy. And sometimes those moments, even though they're little, can count as meditation in my own eyes.
Oh, absolutely. So as we've all experienced, especially, and we say meditation because it's something we've instilled within our company, it's something we've instilled within our personal lives, but taking the pause, taking the moment, the word meditation for a lot of people can be, I'm standing off from that. Okay, I'm not really sure about that meditation thing. I'm not really going to do that. So take a moment. A moment in time is what we all think and reflect back on. We don't go, well, it's 6:32 on July 1st of 1984. No, we go back and we say that in this moment, I remember this.
Right.
So if we take a moment, that's our pause.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. To circle back what we were saying previously when we do the parent trainings, probably the past year since we really started to do the meditation and self-care talks with us at work, I've been recommending therapy to most of the parents. They get into situations, and I get it. It's especially if you have a kiddo with those high needs, high behaviors.
Yes.
It's embarrassing sometimes to go into public. So you almost feel that you're trapped inside your house. You can't do this, can't do this, can't do that. Then it gets so quick. Hey, your kid, they can hang. They can do it. But then the parent still has all those fears, memories, programmings. And then it's like, no, just do it. You got to go out there. Sometimes they do need therapy to talk it out. And almost, I mean, it's a traumatic event sometimes.
Not just the therapy to talk that out, but to take the guilt away.
That as well, yes.
You know, a uniform theme that comes up in all of the parent training, especially when we start it, is the guilt.
Oh, I should have done that, could have done that, and I would have done
Absolutely.
I just said no to that one.
Or how many, I wish I, or what ifs.
Yeah.
There is no what ifs, guys. You have the present moment right now. Everything else in the past is a hallucination. Why? Because we can't go get in our TARDIS and go back in time. When we go back in time, it's our present moment right then and there.
Yeah.
It is so key. And that's why we start talking about moments, because that moment, just to take 30 seconds to breathe. So what have we learned? 90 seconds is the perfect, let me be in my emotion, handle the emotion, and then let it go.
Yep.
If 90 seconds is what our refractory period is, am I saying that right?
I think so, yeah.
You know, that's what we're supposed to be looking at. Then imagine what we can do in just 90 seconds of telling our brain, okay, I just need some quiet. You know, that's the next part, I think, what Loki was trying to reiterate with meditation. Meditation is that personal shut down the brain for you, okay? It may be him jamming out for his way his body will get the self-stimulation out.
Right.
But then it shuts down all of the
outside
excess.
world.
Yes. We need that too. You know, I talk about autism and superpowers, ADHD, ADD, all these superpowers, because there are things that come along with it that our kids can do naturally.
Right.
So our kids that have neurodivergent abilities, just like Loki, is able to shut out the outside world so much easier than we do as adults. We need to learn from them. And that's where self-care comes into place. You need to be able to take that moment just for you. The time to take a deep breath. The time to say, okay, stop. I'm allowed to give myself this time. It's a big word that parents, caregivers don't like to use. I'm allowed to feel this way. I'm allowed to take time for me. If no one's ever told you that, let me be the first one to tell you today. You are allowed to take time for you. You are a divine being. You are caring for the loved ones in your life. And you cannot do it if your energy level is completely depleted. Make sure your gas tank is full before you help that stranger, before you helped your loved one. Why? Because let's think about how many times we see parents in crisis. The child then has a moment. Now, is that parent truly handling the child the way they would like to?
No, of course not.
You know, I can tell you, we've talked about this. I have come home 7, 8 o'clock from a 12-hour day, dealing with other parents' crises, other children, not my own. And I walk in the door and I can see the house is disoriented, and I'm very OCD in my own right. And then Loki's like, Mom, just don't even look at the house. Just go straight to your room. Go meditate. I've got this. You know, that's key though, because I want our older kids that listen to the podcast in the car with moms and dads and grandma and grandpas to know that you could also help advocate for your parent. If you see your parent in those stressors, tell your mom and dad it's okay to take time for themselves. Loki does that to me all the time. That's a good one for him, because he'll be like, Mom, you need to go meditate.
It's often most of the time where mom comes back from like a long day at work, and the most important thing that I really do say to her, and even if I sound like a broken record, is, Mom, what can I do to help? And Mom, besides my chores, Was there anything else I can do to help you or assist you at this time? I've even like called her yesterday when she was working like around like 7 just to say, hey, I know you're working late. Do you want me to order food for you or do anything of the like to that?
Just those little thoughtful acts.
Yeah.
They mean a lot.
Mean a lot. Hold on. I'm gonna make him blush.
I was still on to something
Okay,
because
go right ahead.
on the topic of my mom working since 7, I had to take care of that house. And I think Mama's already discussed about the chickens. A possum got into the chicken coop while my mom was working late at night.
Yeah.
So the first...
Yes, the chickens are all good.
So
the chickens are fine.
The first thing that my mom came across through me was me coming out of the balcony when it was cold, like 50 degrees cold.
Mm-hmm. No, that's Florida 50 degrees, guys.
Florida 50 degrees, yeah, fair. But coming out of the balcony and saying there's an opossum in the chicken coop, and I ran it away, and having zip ties in my hand because there was a small gap, a small divot inside the chicken coop that I was sealing up. That way, Mom doesn't have to worry about it.
So
it's just another Tuesday, you know.
Just a Tuesday, in Florida, work a 12-hour day, come home, and you got possums trying to get to your chickens. But yes, that's what we're talking about. That's life.
Yeah, that's
Welcome
life.
to Pam's couch.
That's right, yeah.
But if we're dealing with that on our couch, what are you dealing with in your couch? Guys, if you're finding this podcast informative and you've liked some of our episodes, please remember to hit that little button in the bottom that we know that you're there with us, and share this episode with other friends that could also get tips and tricks for their toolbox, especially when we're all in this together. Today with self-care, just like Loki was talking about, the last thing I wanted to do after 12 hours is come home, make sure my kid is taken care of, and then now go make sure my 4 chickens are still alive and well and fight the possum in Florida. No. Where does self-care come in? What happened to the years ago, the Calgon Take Me Away, the bubble bath commercials that we grew up on? For us Gen Xers, I'll elude the Gen Alphas that won't know what that is.
I also wanted to say that I'm sorry if I'm taking over just for a brief moment.
No.
This is a very important thing that I've seen you not do that much, because I know that you are a solo mom through and through.
Yeah.
But this is also towards other parents. This doesn't have to be your loved one or your partner, but having a talk with someone about how you're feeling at this personal moment is extremely important for trying to have self-care, because you cannot just have emotions that are dedicated to yourself, because they will pop like a balloon once a certain threshold is met. Yep. You have to have like someone to de-stress with, or someone that you could just text, say, hey, I'm feeling stressful right now. Can I talk about my day to you? Because I'm going to be honest, this is coming from her right now. I always say, hey, how is your day been? And Mom will have this look where her face looks melted and say, it's been long, and not elaborate on anything, and proceed to explode in the next 5 minutes when she gets in her room and checks her emails. And I'm like, okay, so you don't want to talk about anything, but you're willing to yell at other people about your day.
Well,
but he's true.
He's
we
right
don't
on.
do that. We don't.
And I think the significant other is usually the last person to vent to, because typically they're the ones that want to vent to you.
Yes.
So I know, at least in my experience or my household, when I come home, one of the first things that happens is I get a lowdown of my partner's day, and so the last thing I want to do is download on my day, because
I feel like you're trying to one up each other.
or it becomes like a tug of war.
Okay, but at the same time, let's talk about NCS, okay, neuro change solutions. So let's think about how we have programmed our new mindset. Mm-hmm. So I understand where Loki is coming from, and we do. Having that person, that sounding board, someone that you can vent to, okay, is extremely important. Mm-hmm. And that's important whether you are the caregiver, the adult, or
The child.
if you are the child as well. That's where the friendships, especially for our neurodivergent kids, is so important. For them to have someone, some confidant, that they can talk to, that they can express themselves to. That's why we did the episode, especially on online friends, because a lot of our neurodivergent population has found their friendships online. You know, but as parents, who do you talk to? You know, we think about Ghostbusters, who you going to call? That's real in today's society. Who do we call as parents? You are right. You know, I want to live in the present moment. So for me, when he comes in, he's like, Mom, and yes, I'm like, wow, guys, imagine you've got 1 or 2 neurodivergent. Imagine dealing with, 111 right now, multitasking between 3 different campuses. Along with that, you've got the parents. Along with that, you've got the employees. You know, there's a lot that goes into that. But when I come home, last 5 years, last 2 years, last year has been critical for me, is I don't want to relive what I've already had to deal with during the day. So finding that moment, finding that space, whether it's I have a little area in my house. My friend Holly dedicated it as my Zen zone, and it has my singing bowls, and it's where I do my meditation. That is key. Find a space in your home. It could be a chair. It could be a couch. It could be the garage. Missy, do you have a space in your house for you? You need a spot just for you. My son, it's either in his bedroom, his game room, or down by the dock. I know those 3 areas. And if I see him down by the dock, that's his Zen zone. You know, so we all need to find that little tiny bit of space. And what I really like is the idea of your family members getting to know that, okay, Pam's in her cool down space. You know, your child is in their space.
Pam is having her moment.
Yes, and we're allowed to. And give your kids as well as yourself that moment. Because we don't. We think it's okay to take care of this and make sure that this is taken care of and give this and give and give and give. But how many times do you give that grace back to yourself when you see it in the mirror?
That's what I was going to say.
And earlier you mentioned guilt. I mean, that was probably the hardest lesson I had to learn when I got divorced. Because I was somebody pointed out to me I was parenting out of guilt, meaning I was giving a lot, and my every waking moment time, to the kids. And even I still do it to this day, and but less so. But that was a hard kind of reality check somebody had to point to me, like, you're parenting out of guilt. It's okay if you're not entertaining them every second of every day, but I was, because I was only seeing them every other week,
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I can only imagine, parents with a child with special needs or big needs or high behavior. And so there's that, because I have parents that tell me all the time, like, no, I need to attend to every single thing, But the irony, of course, is a lot of those parents, when they just kind of step back and take a look, the kid is playing independently, doing just fine. So take that moment.
Oh.
And but it's hard. It's
guilt.
hard it's guilt.
That's a really big word.
Yeah.
But it carries on all of us.
Oh, yeah.
And not just from 87% of divorced families with neurodivergent kids. That carries with that. The guilt carries. As a single mom, yes, indeed. And there's a lot that I shared. We have no secrets between him and I. And it was because I was a single mom with a special needs child. Yep. And what do? There's no other way to do it except for, okay, we're doing this together. And full disclosure, like I told all the parents, crying in the bathroom. If you think your kid doesn't know it, you're fooling yourself. They know.
They'll find
They
it.
know. They will. So
they'll eventually find out.
Yes, but be human.
Yeah.
Be human, because that's when our relationship even exploded into this amazing, like a caterpillar. Now we have an adult relationship as mother and son that's wonderful, that we can share. There's still times, don't get me wrong, that I want to break off on him real quick. And I'm like, 0 to 500. We turned the switch. But that's children and that's parenting. The difference is being able to go to your child and say, hey, mom screwed up. Hey, I could have handled this better. I'm sorry I handled it this way. But man, next time. Do you see what I'm saying? And as parents, I've seen so many that are like, no, I am infallible. And then the children look at the parent at this, I can never attain to this.
Mhm.
I'll never reach that, or I'm never going to be as good as. And that's just a completely falsehood, because the parent has set themselves up on such a pedestal that the child then, any failure to not meet that level is just unsuccessful. And we don't want our children to do that.
Right.
No.
We want them to know we're adults, we're valuable, we're going to make mistakes.
Mhm.
But the more time we spend on us, the less mistakes.
Right.
I wanted to say this during the part when you were talking about the be human part.
Yes.
As the parent, you don't have to make your child into the perfect human being in your perspective. You don't, showing signs of like weakness towards your child, while like, sure, you may think it's a bad idea because, oh, your child may learn, but your child may also learn sympathy.
Yeah.
And like the fact that other people often feel weak as well. They are not the only ones that feel as if they're going to break down at any moment.
Yeah.
Adults have that problem as well. It's like, if you never show your child the fact that everyone can be weak, then they're going to feel out of place whenever they feel like they're having a breakdown.
Oh,
yeah.
wholeheartedly. We see it with our kids. We see it at the elementary school. We see it in the clinic.
Mhm.
And then it's I'm not living up to this expectation.
Mhm.
And that's a false expectation. So what we need to do is we need to be able to implement taking time for yourself, showing self-care as family members, as adults, so that our children can then mimic that behavior. Because if we are not giving our time for ourselves, we're teaching that to our children on our daily. So from our couch to your couch, take time for you. Take time, that little tiny moment. Could be 60 seconds, could be 90 seconds. And find a space in your house that can identify to your cool down space. You know, so easily we talk about years and years ago, didn't you all have the put your nose in the corner? Do you remember all those back from the Peanuts?
Mhm.
And I know some of you all don't even know Charlie Brown. You don't know where I'm going on this one. Wah, 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 Charlie Brown. You get where I'm going? But even then, think about it. What were we doing? You were giving the child a moment.
Mhm.
You were giving them time.
Mhm.
Parents, you need time for you. I hope this episode you take to heart. I hope you actually take a moment for you. That's what this podcast has been about today.
Yeah.
Reminding each and every one of us to take a moment just for you.
Uh-huh.
Until next time, Pam and the Purple Couch Podcast. See you soon.